Hey friends, Shannon Battles here with Eagles Homeschooling Incorporated. I want to talk to you for a few minutes about archery range safety and setup. First thing is this: whenever you are close to a range, if you ever hear 5 times or more blown from this whistle, that means we are to stop doing what we are doing. If we've got a bow, even if we're in draw, we need to ease off the draw. We need to come back. We need to put our arrows in the quivers. We need to rack our bows, and we need to go back to the waiting area and get behind that waiting line. The whistle would sound something like this. Now, it might be pretty loud on this mic, but you need to know that. It's very important. Another thing to consider is this: most of the time archery ranges are going to be in gyms, and so you're going to have multiple exits, multiple doors, possibility of windows and office space and things like that. For us here, we've already designated an area to where we're going to lock some exit doors. As you can see behind the archery curtain and the target, there's a set of doors that are locked. We're going to have signage there from the outside letting people know who come that way, which that is a highly untrafficked area. And so the signage would just let people know this is not an entryway. You are no longer allowed to come in this way. There would also be another door on the other side of the archery curtain that will be locked as well. The majority of our traffic in this gym is going to be from the opposite end of the court. It's going to be behind the camera where there's the concession stands and all those things. So you always want to be mindful of pedestrian traffic, and you want to block those areas off and keep those safe so that no one is harmed. So remember, you want to lock those doors. You want to put things in perspective where no pedestrians can get in the way or get harmed, and you want to remember that 5 times or more on that whistle. That means everybody needs to stop what they're doing until that situation is resolved. Next, we're going to talk about the archery curtain and its placement. What we want to do is we want to allow at least an arrow's length from the archery curtain to any hard surface, so that if the arrow was to go off of the curtain or go through the curtain or somehow get around, it wouldn't hit a hard object. Or if the curtain does stop it, it's only going to go so far, and there's going to be plenty of space between the curtain and the object. So that's the first thing you need to be mindful of the archery curtain. The second thing is this: you want it draped loosely, okay? It needs to have folds in it. That way, when the arrow does go, let's say it misses the target, when it comes into the curtain is able to absorb the flight of the arrow. So that's the second thing you need to be mindful of the archery curtain. The last thing is this: you'll notice how the curtain is draped at the bottom, okay? This is to help support it up top as these curtains hang from cables and things, but it's also to help give more stability when the arrows come through. So you'll want to have this curtain probably draped and hanging loosely and down on the bottom 3 to 6 inches or so. And so that's the things you need to be mindful of about the archery curtain. Next, we're going to talk about target placement. Okay, the targets, I've got it right here. Just to give you a little bit of a description about the targets. We're shooting international style. These targets, they have 10 circles starting up here at the top. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so that's what we'll be shooting at. When we're first starting out, we won't be shooting at the target like that. We'll be shooting at blanks so that the students can focus on fundamentals and the 11 steps of archery success and so forth, rather than focusing on the bullseye. Now with the targets, what you want to do, you want to at least have them at a distance no more than an arrow length from the curtain. Again, an arrow is 30 inches. You don't want them to go past that. They can come up to this, but generally, if possible, you want to have your target close to the archery curtain like this, as long as it's not pinching that excess that you have on the bottom that's dragging the floor. And so there's the placement of the target. You want to have it right in here, and then we'll move on to where we get to the target line. Okay, as you can see, I'm on this makeshift archery lane here. It's 5 feet, so you can see the target, and I've got it turned to the blank side like we talked about earlier. And this line right here is called the target line. This line is 2 yards from the face of the target. And what we'll do is we'll have our archers, after they shoot, they will come here, one will go forward, and if they're scoring their arrows and stuff, they'll both get to look at that. But what we do is we have this target line to keep them safe, because what's going to happen is they're going to come and they're going to pull their arrows from the target, and we want that other archer to be behind that target line. This will allow one archer to come and grab the arrows and pull them out and drop them, and always looking back to make sure that a knock is not hitting the other archer. If someone's going to get injured, more than likely it could be from someone being too close, and then when they're pulling those arrows out, the knock hitting the other archer. And so here's the target line. Again, it's about 2 yards from the face of the target. Below me is a blue line that represents the shooting line. Now this one is 10 meters from the target face. Normally when we're starting out, what we'll be doing is we'll probably have our archers start out at say 5 to 7 yards, and as they all shoot confidently from those ranges, we'll ease them back, ease them back, ease them back. And here, this is the first true shooting line at 10 meters. As you can see, I have a couple of quivers. This is set up as if there is a right-handed and a left-handed shooter shooting in this lane. You'll want to make sure that they have 30 inches or so for each shooter. This will allow each of them to have adequate space as they're shooting on the target, if we had enough archers. If not, we would have one archer per target as we're practicing. But this right here is the first of the true shooting lanes after the target line. Hello again. As we're looking at the range, I've talked about the target line, the shooting line, and how when we're first starting out, that can fluctuate some. We may start out at 5 to 7 yards and work with our new archers and then get them to that 10-meter mark. Then beyond the 10 meter, we would have a 15-meter shot. And so that's why I have 2 quivers here for left-handed archers, just so we could see it. We would have that first quiver there at the 10-meter. This second quiver here is just to represent the 15-meter. And then between the shooting line, whichever it would be, the shooting line, you've got about 6 yards or so right here. Excuse me, 4 yards. You have 4 yards right here. You'd have 2 yards for the target to the target line, and then you got from the target to the first shooting line would be 10 meters, and then also from the target to the most distance, the 15 meter, and then you've got 4 yards for a waiting line. Before any shots are taking place, all the archers, about 15 minutes from their flights, they would be at the waiting area. They would not be able to proceed past this waiting line. They wouldn't even need to have their toes on the waiting line. We would want those off. We'd want adequate space between them. And so you have the waiting line, and then the shooting lines, and then the target line. And that's the range. Also, I want to remind you that you've got your 5 or more whistle stops on here, so that indicates danger. Also, we don't ever want to have our archers, when they're drawing, have an arrow in the bow and it facing somewhere other than the target. And we don't want them to try to pull the bow back and release the string without an arrow, which is what we would call a dry fire. And so that's the safety and setup range, just describing the curtain, the target, making sure doors are locked and things like that, making sure pedestrians won't be in harm's way, and archers will be able to shoot safely. Thank you.